Hello everyone, and welcome to Fictional Vortex. So we are back with an interesting series on what if Naruto become a Hellsing prince and awakens Drakness power. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Kakashi was thrilled. No, he was bloody ecstatic. His team and one extra, who was a civilian, had encountered Zabuza Momochi, and obviously a rank missing nin, putting the silver-haired nin on edge because of the risk of aborting the mission altogether. That and putting the last Uchiha at risk of death on their first mission outside the village. However, luck was on his side and his students all agreed to continue with the mission. He had even thanked Kami for him for getting another Kekai Genkai in the form of Zabuza's tool, Haku. Kakashi had panicked when the young teen had appeared in front of his rakery, but was instantly relieved when Naruto had shoved the Hyuden user out the way. Instead, with that small chance given to him, he had pumped more chakra into his jutsu, in hope of killing the Kyuubi brat, avenging his beloved sensei. He looked into its eyes to only see betrayal flash across them. However, there was something else, that something he couldn't put his finger on. The silver-haired man quickly dismissed it as the light in the blonde's eyes faded. Joy and dread filled being when he realized that there could have been witnesses, and those witnesses were called Sakura and Tazuna. The Cyclops swiftly looked over to his most useless student and his current client. A sigh of relief inaudible escaped through his mask, noting that the both of them had fainted, probably due to the Kyuubi releasing its killing intent. The Konoha Junin shook the corpse off and over the unfinished bridge railings, his focus returning to the missing nin and his apprentice in front of him. Well, it looks like you can't even kill one man. Gatu appeared, mocking the injured swordsman he had hired. Gatu. Why are you here? Ha ha ha. I decided to change some plans. Wait, I planned this from the beginning. Kekekeke. I was never going to pay you. You're too expensive, so you are going to die here. What? Zabuza yelled angrily. So much for your title, Demon of the Mist. It's most like, Baby Demon of the Mist, huh? The short man smirked. Kakashi, since we're no longer enemies, lend me a kunai. With that request, the masked man tossed him one, after the rogue nin tore the bandages off his mouth. The taller man caught it with his mouth and glared at the midget ahead of him. Kill them. The height-challenged businessman commanded. The mercenaries he hired roared, charging at the ninjas before them. I'm going down, because I'm going to take you with me to hell. Zabuza managed to yell out and mercilessly killed the men Gatu had hired. After the massacre of a number of thugs and one greedy man, the residents of Wave came, with varying items to be used as weapons, which drove off the last of Gatu's men. The mob cheered in victory, happily to be finally free from the horrible tyrant. Haku mourned for her mentor, father figure, after he had given his surrogate daughter his last words. She was also mourning for Naruto, a person who could have been a good friend, if they had met in different circumstances. Tazuna was woken by his grandson, as Sakura was awakened by her sensei. The crowd had already headed back to their village, as Inari, Tazuna and his guards returned to the bridge builder's home for well-deserved rest. Sasuke had regained consciousness in the guest room, with Sakura cheering a little too loudly for the Uchiha's tastes. HN. Where's the Dobi? The raven-haired teen asked, as he managed to sit up, without the help of his annoying fangirl. Kakashi took that moment to let out a sad sigh. His two students looked towards the door and were surprised when he had put away his smut. I'm sorry to tell you guys this. He died in the fight. It was short. Too blunt. Kakashi gauged their reactions. What? H. How? Sakura choked up. The silver-haired Junin had a solemn face, or tried to, as he was wearing a mask that covered up most of his face. Anyways, he told them what had happened. Naruto somehow managed to knock out the fake hunter nin, which resulted him thinking he could take Zabuza on. I demanded him to stay out of our fight, but he refused to listen to reason. He charged at Zabuza and was cut down. The force sent him over the side of the bridge. I tried to get to him, but my path was blocked and continued to fight against Zabuza. When our fight was over, I sent some shadow clones to find his body. And? The pinkette timidly inquired. All Kakashi could do was have an expression of pain of his face and shook his head negatively. With that, the teen girl burst into tears, as Sasuke clenched his fists. Knock, knock. I'm sorry to interrupt, but dinner is ready. Tsunami spoke softly, although loud enough for the Konoha nin could hear her. The three ninjas, along with Tezuna's family, ate quietly, with minimal chatter at the table, because they were mourning the orange-wearing blonde, who had brought back the courage within the citizens of Wave, all except for Kakashi. As the said man was relishing, inwardly, for the death of the Kyuubi, a child's voice echoed around in the dining room. Ichi, ni. I'm coming for thee. A giggle resonated in the room before it had disappeared. The voice had chilled everyone's spines, as Sakura managed to sputter out a sentence. Sensei. What W was dat? Probably some kid playing a prank, was Kakashi's calm response. Oh okay. The quiet, depressing air in the room had disappeared, leaving only tension, as the group tried to continue eating. On the other hand, the Junin sent out a subtle chakra pulse, to find the chakra signature of the voice they had just heard. He wanted to make sure that they were not a threat. After all, some of Gatu's thugs could come back. However, there was no signature to be found, which caused some worry to sprout, as he knew that every living thing had chakra. Heck, even Guy's student had a minuscule amount of chakra too. The masked man frowned, as he wondered how. Needless to say, no one had much of an appetite after that, nor did they get much sleep, because they couldn't get that terrifying child's voice out of their heads. Although, the last sentence was the one that stuck out the most, as they wondered who the voice was addressing to. The next day, the younger team members of Team 7 groggily woke up to their overly too cheery sensei, telling them that they were to continue protecting Tezuna. After all, bandits would not pass the opportunity of raiding the small fishing village at its weakest time. Which result the young Uchiha glaring at the man who was smiling the whole time. After a week of rest, taking turns in guarding the bridge builder and training, what was left of Team 7 were preparing to leave Wave, as their mission was complete. The three of them were double-checking their supplies, when a man burst through the front door. Tezuna. Why, you've got to come quick. Gatu's men are back, he stammered out. Kuso. Kakashi mentally cursed to himself. I thought we scared B, but they're all dead. The panicking man shivered. That last sentence had stunned everybody. That accursed Midahem tyrant had at least 100 men, along with the fact that Zabuza eliminated roughly 36 of them. So the remaining thugs were killed in a single night, as they were not there the day before. Who could have this? Their bodies. The brunette man started, but trailed off, almost gagging. Why, you have to see for yourself. Tezuna looked over to Kakashi, who nodded his head with a serious look in his eye. Where are the bodies? The old man asked sternly. No, on the bridge, he responded, then telling them that he was going back to his family. Kakashi, Tezuna, Sasuke and Sakura quickly left the house to go investigate the corpses at the bridge. The silver-haired man left a few shadow clones to guard the house, just in case the murderer would go for Tezuna's family. Haku, on the other hand, was still the Konoha's captive and stayed with Tsunami and Inari. She had not moved around nor eaten much after Zabuza and Naruto's death over a week ago. The teenager only talked when spoken to and ate only enough food and water to keep her body going. The two men were not prepared to see what was on the bridge. Sasuke, however, steeled himself, but paled at the horrid sight before him. Sakura. She was definitely not ready to see this scene at all. Once the newly finished bridge was in focus, her face pale as a white sheet, then turning green, and began to throw up her breakfast in some nearby bushes. She was soon followed by Tezuna as well. The bodies. What they found was a truly horrific sight indeed. Over 60 bodies were tied, upside down on posts that were jammed into the bridge. All was missing their arms and legs, were wearing expressions of utmost of a mixtures of terror and despair. Their faces would haunted the small group for months to come, if not years. Although, if one were to look closely enough, they was notice that the limbs were actually torn off, their throat viciously bitten out, and lastly, there was not a single drop of blood staining the completed overpass. Kakashi analyzed the area for any puddles of the crimson liquid, but to no avail. I doubt they also took the time to clean up the bridge, but if they did one hell of a job. Kakashi sniffed the air for the metallic scent. Before he could speak a single word of reassurance, the same voice from the week before giggled hauntingly. The childlike speaker sang to them once more. Ichi, ni. I'm coming for thee, San, blood is my fee. Another giggle emanated from the invisible specter again and failed away, leaving Tazuna and the remnants of Team 7, in a deadly silence. It was quite indisputable that this person was not playing a child's prank on them. In only a matter of hours, rumors spread throughout Wave like a wildfire, suggesting that the bridge was being haunted by the spirit of the genin that had been killed while defending it, and that it was the ghost that killed the rest of Gatu's men that had ran away. Anyways, the Leaf Junin sent out a few clones to scout out the area before he and his team were to leave the island. After an hour or so of searching, the place had the all clear, so Kakashi finally told them it was safe to leave. Sakura was very happy when she heard the news, as the last member, hinnied in response. The Hayaten user remained silent through the whole ordeal. Moving on, the team of 3, plus an extra were being seen off by half, if not most of the residents of the small fishing village. Once the ninjas were out of sight, Inari looked up to his grandpa and asked, "What should we name the bridge?" "The Bridge of Great Sacrifice," he spoke, with no hesitation. -3 days later, the group of nin traveled quietly and swiftly, mostly in silence throughout the whole trip back home. All of them were secretly relieved that the mysterious voice hadn't returned, minus Haku. Although, as the traveling group spotted the gates of Konoha, a giggle startled them to a halt. They immediately formed a circle, with them being back to back. Haku only stood to the side, with dull eyes, and was oblivious to the world. "Ichi, ni. I'm coming for thee, San, blood is my fee. Go, Roku." Innocence broke. As it finished its little song, it gave out the same giggle before it vanished. This had sent shivers down their spines and their fears to rise to new levels. And as the first time Kakashi heard the voice, he sent out another subtle chakra pulse to only have the same result as before. The man forced his body to relax and said, "We're nearly home, so let's pick up the pace, all right?" Earning a quick nod from his only female student and a grunt from the other, he smiled. The small party began their run to the gates. Team 7, or what's left of it, and Haku approached the Hokage Tower, with Kakashi mentally rehearsing the story he was going to tell to his leader, as he had added more to the explanation he had given to his students. Speaking of these said students, the two of them were still mourning the loss of the blonde baka, who had brightened up their days, often at his own expense. Their prisoner was still in her dazed state, thinking over the sacrifice her surrogate father, along with the last words that were given to her, which deeply touched her heart. But before they entered the tall building, the child merrily sang its tune. "Ichi, ni. I'm coming for thee, San, blood is my fee. Go, Roku." Innocence broke. "Sichi, hachi, deceit ye croak." The same routine happened, but its laugh lasted a little longer than the last time, as if this person was mocking them. Momentarily frozen, Kakashi silently panicked. Was this voice pointing out the fact it knows what he had done? If it was to expose him to the Hokage, he mutely gulped worriedly. "Ha, let's get a move on, my cute little genins." He laughed cheerily, trying to brighten up the mood. This did not calm Sasuke and Sakura's nerves. Knock, knock. "Come in." Sakura, Sasuke, Haku and Kakashi walked into the office, to stand before the old fire shadow. "Ah, Kakashi, you're back from your Scion." He looked over the group, noting that the last person was not his surrogate grandson. "Where's Naruto-kun?" The two genins avoided eye contact, as Haku remained silent, showing only a single tear falling down her pale cheek. Kakashi stepped forward to give his regretful report of Naruto's death. "Hokage-sama, I'm terribly sorry to inform you that Genin, Uzumaki Naruto died in action. He carelessly threw himself into my fight against Momochi Zabuza." He interrupted an all too familiar voice, excluding Sarutobi. "What? Even here? It's not possible," Kakashi thought in alarm. "No, it's going to reveal me." Darkness. It instantly surrounded the room, with only the people being visible to the other. Hiruzen and Kakashi both attempted to dispel the genjutsu. However, the two of them ended writing out it was no jutsu that was cast upon them. Suddenly eyes appeared all over the room, all snapping open. They were on the walls, ceiling, and even on the floor the nins were standing on. The young voice had also came back, singing the same daunting song. But this time as it was singing, the singer's voice got older, as if they were rapidly aged throughout their creepy tune. Ichi, ni. I'm coming for thee, san, shi, blood is my fee. Go, Roku. Innocence broke, sichi, hachi, deceit ye croak. Ju. Lies are made true. After a moment of utter silence, they all tensed as a maniacal laughter enveloped them. The matured voice was so familiar to the more experienced ninjas, but before one of them could call out the owner's name, a figure rose for the shadows, revealing a male figure. He was facing the Hokage, as his back was only seen by the small team, and Haku. Just as the man fully rose up from the ground, the shadows seemed to melt off of his being. As the darkness came off, his bright golden blonde hair was revealed, along with pale skin, being hardly seen, because his head was slightly lowered in a long trench coat concealing the rest of his body. He stood only a couple of inches shorter than the Hitaki, as the highly alerted nins observed the intruder. The shadows reached the bottom and dissipated into the floor, finally showing what the person before them looked like, from where they see him. Blonde hair that rivaled against the purest of gold, pale skin like porcelain, his coat eerily, if not the same as the Yondaime's, and steel-toed leather boots. He bowed to the old fire shadow, which shook the wrinkled man out of his stupor. Minato? Sarutobi asked in a disbelieving whisper. Not quite. He spoke, before he stood up straight, snapping his eyes open, only to reveal the same blood-red eyes that were covering the dark space they were currently in. As I am the son, not the father, Sakura gasped, as everyone else stared at him in utter shock. And to Kakashi's horror, the younger group didn't comprehend the fact that the Yondaimes had a son. However, the other two immediately knew who this person was. Naruto-kun? The Sandame asked cautiously. Correct, Gigi. That's impossible. I saw you die, the Junin yelled in fear. The now revealed Naruto turned around for the first time, ignoring the second gasp that Sakura gave out. His eyes solely focused on the silver-haired man, as the said man took a step back. Yes you did. The blonde smirked, continuing on. I imagine you're not used to people coming back from the dead after you shove your rakery through their hearts. Silence. Undeniable silence filled the room, as all eyes became fixated on the trembling man. The Uzumaki slowly walked towards his supposed teacher. He spoke. Ichi, ni. I'm coming for thee, san, shi. Blood is my fee. Go, Roku. Innocence broke. Sichi, hachi. Deceit ye croak. Ju. Lies are made true. Just as Naruto reached his sensei, the aged monkey summoner spoke up. If your accusation is true, from what I could make sense out of it, what do you mean by lies are made true? The teen turned his head to face his grandfather figure and gave him, Hiruzen, his answer. It's simple. Many, if not all of the citizens of Konoha call me a monster, believing I was the being I held within myself. But in reality, I was an innocent, fragile human child. He then glanced back to look Kakashi in his only visible eyes and continued on. Then this dog determinedly killed me, causing a change within myself, and if he could try again, he would obvious fail. Why? Naruto grinned an impossibly large shark-like grin, displaying his razor-sharp teeth to all. It takes a man to kill a monster. After Naruto spoke that single daunting sentence, the air in the space they were occupying became immensely tense. It was almost suffocating. What do you mean, Naruto baka? Sakura managed to nervously screeched at him. A scowl immediately appeared as his red eyes were directed at her, causing the poor girl to shrink back in fear. But Naruto lowered his head slightly, his hair shadowing over his eyes. A white gleaming smile spread painfully across his cheeks. Tell me, what do you know about the Kyuubi and the day he attacked? The golden blonde eerily asked the pitiful girl before him. Kyuubi attacked the village and the Yondaime Hokage killed it, giving his life in the process. The pinkette had straightened up to answer. BZT. Wrong. In actuality, the Kyuubi was forced to attack Konoha, as he was under the influence of a powerful genjutsu that was controlling him. The Yondaime was forced to seal the Biju away into a newborn. because only an infant can contain the beast due to their underdeveloped chakra pathways. He also didn't want any parent to sacrifice their child to a heavy burden. So he used his own newly born child. So, when was I born? He corrected the Haruno and explained to them, then changed the subject entirely at the last moment. How should we know? You never told us. Sasuke tried to coolly speak. I was born on October 10th. Naruto told them, patiently waiting for their realization to hit them. After a minute or so, their eyes widened in shock, having it all figured out. Why, you were T the newborn? The pinkette pointed at the taller teen. Another grin appeared on the revived teen and made a ding sound, indicating that she was correct. Kakashi fell onto his knees, as a cold feeling began to lurch into his chest. Sasuke stayed quiet and tried to keep a neutral face on, as the eyes surrounding them still stared at the small group. Haku couldn't stand it anymore and immediately went up to the Yondaimi's son and gave him a tight hug. No need to cry. I'm not going anywhere. Naruto gently patted the crying girl's back. Ahem. Naruto, could you tell us how you're alive? That's as a clan secret. The blonde teen stated, not wanting to reveal his abilities to this pathetic team he once believed in. Naruto then slowly turned around and viciously glared at Kakashi's still form on the ground. All red eyes were focused back onto him, and the now revealed Namikaze gently pulled the tearful young lady off and walked to the silver-haired man. Now it's time to die, you worthless dog, Naruto yelled and was about to kill the man, but was stopped. Wait. The red-clad teen growled, turning to glare at the old man. What? Please, give Kakashi-san another chance. Sarutobi inwardly panicked. And why's that? Because he was your father's student. So, you should give him a chance to at least teach you something your father had taught him? TCH. One chance. He growled out. Sarutobi let out a mute sigh of relief and the room returned to the way it was, without the shadows and menacing eyes. Naruto looked over to Haku and motioned to her to follow him, and the two of them left in silence. When the once cheerful boy departed, Sakura collapsed onto the ground, as Sasuke began to breathe easily again. The aging man sat back down in his chair, slumping in a painful realization that he would never see the happy-go-lucky child ever again. Time skip. After a couple of weeks, life returned to the way it was. Well, as close as you can get with a very sadistic teammate always trying his best to kill their sensei every time they sparred against him. Anyways, Naruto had moved into his father's estate on the edge of the village, along with Haku accompanying him in the large home. But in recent turn of events, the council had called the Hyden user to the meeting, to discuss what they were going to do with her. Council room. I vote for her to go into the CRA, Clan Restoration Act, a fat merchant called out. No. She should help Sasuke-sama bring his clan back to glory, another civilian councilor yelled. Haku just stood there, absolutely terrified, as she didn't want to go become breeding stock so soon in her short life. But the yelling had stopped when a malicious laughter echoed into the room. The Anbu guards all tensed and were ready for action, however all had collapsed from being knocked out by the mysterious person. All Sarutobi could do was sigh, as he knew who it was and left the events before him unfold. A figure appeared, as if it were walking straight through the wall, into the room. Well, what do we have here? A mop of blonde hair was revealed and many of the members gasped in shock. Yondaime-sama? A number of the civilian yelled. Not quite. Naruto then showed his face and the non-ninjas screamed that the demon was finally showing its true colors. But were instantly silenced by a large amount of killer intent coming from the Sandame. Naruto chuckled at the naivety of these pathetic humans and spoke. I am no demon. Then what are you? I am a monster. He then roared in insane laughter, scaring the sh*t out of most of the people present. Now, a little birdie told me that you were about to make Haku-chan do something she doesn't want to do. He looked at every single civilian there. Haku jumped into Naruto's arm, lightly crying, and said that she didn't want to become a baby machine, these horrid people. I'm not so sorry to say this, but Haku-chan is under my clan's protection, so you cannot do a thing to her. Bah! You have no clan, the same fat merchant hollered out. Oh, how wrong you are. Pig. The man sputtered for a moment and was about to yell at the blonde. Squelch the pig coughed up blood, as he shakily looked down to see an arm coming out of his chest. He craned his head to see who the offender was, but died seconds before he got a good look at his murderer. Now that the pig won't be interrupting anymore, let us continue. Naruto sat down where the man he killed was sitting. The two men at his sides shifted away in utter horror, with pale faces. Sarutobi just had to sigh again and rubbed his temples for the oncoming headache he was getting. My clan. Or clans, I belong to are the Uzumaki and Namikaze. Uzumaki from my mother's side and Namikaze from my father's side. What? Liar. It can't be. Silence. You maggots, Naruto roared. If you annoying vermin want to know if it's true or not, just ask your Sandame. Or even your precious Toad Sanin. He glared. They all looked over to the robed man and he nodded. What he's saying is all true. All the blood drained from their faces, minus the clan heads. Even the blood on the floor was drained and consumed by Naruto, with no one taking notice of the missing blood from the dead man. Permission to eliminate the civilian council? The blonde grinned widely. Denied. Was the Sandame's immediate answer. Naruto sighed and tried again with a different method. Permission to scare them? Huh? Permission to scare them? The teen repeated himself. No, too bad. His shadows covered the weak humans and screams of utter terror filled the room like an orchestra. Mad laughter echoed around the room once more and the two teens disappeared from their view. Namikaze Estate. Are you all right, Haku-chan? Kind red eyes gazed at the brunette. Yes. She sniffled. Thanks to you, Naruto-kun. Ah. You're such an enchanting snow maiden. He purred, making the said female blush. Naruto-kun. He grabbed her chin and made her look up into his blood-red eyes. Yes, my dear. Her knees felt weak. I love you, she confessed, even though she had gotten to know him for just over 2 weeks now. He moved in to take in her heavenly scent. Are you a virgin? What? I asked, are you a virgin? Why yes. She looked down, burning bright pink in embarrassment. Would you like to become a vampire? I don't know. Can you let me think about it? Haku hesitated. Anything for my future Ice Queen, he once again purred. But I must warn you, I might have more women for brides. Is that all right with you? As long as you treat us equally, the lovely brunette replied. That's my girl. He kissed her on the cheek. -5 days later. Naruto-kun. Haku stuttered. The blonde hummed, while swirling a wine glass half full of blood. I would like to become a vampire. She shyly looked onto the carpeted floor. Ah, you've come to your decision. Why yes. All we have to do is let me drink your blood and in return you drink mine. Oh okay. Haku lowered kimono off her shoulder, showing her milk-white neck to the blonde vampire. This will hurt a little, he mumbled, before resting his head on her shoulder. Taking in a deep breath. I'm ready. Sharp fangs pierced her neck, letting out a small mewl. A smirk appeared on the whiskered face of the vampire and began to drink her delicious blood. After a few minutes of savoring her red life force, he let her go and pulled his collar down for her to feast upon his blood. Her eyes glowed red and fangs peeked out of her petite lips. She bit down on his neck and the liquid flooded into her mouth. Her eyes widened at the marvelous taste and greedily drank as much as she could. The sitting male chuckled at his first bride's reaction to her fist feed. Now. That's enough, my dear. Naruto gently pulled her away. She was panting, with a small blush adorning her beautiful face. Naruto scooped up her soft cheek into his gloved hand and pulled her into a searing kiss. She returned it with utter vigor, wanting it to last as long as possible. 7 minutes later of hot mouth to mouth, the two pulled apart. One dazed, as the other smirked cheekily. Naruto looked down to his new lover and pulled her into a loving hug, but he didn't stop there. His hand, that he used to pull her closer, lowered to down her back to her behind. He gazed at her sleeping form for a few minutes and turned his head to check the time and frowned, as he had a team meeting the next day. He clothed himself and went down the stairs to the kitchen. Getting another glass full of blood, going down another set of stairs and sat on his throne in the basement. Naruto then contemplated whether not or to go, as he now hated being in the sunlight and another obvious reason. He hummed to himself, pondering what his next move was going to be and grinned savagely when a certain thought came to mind. Mourning Naruto groaned, as he pushed the lid of his coffin off and sat up, rubbing his eyes. He glanced over to a clock that was hanging on the wall and muttered to himself. He then got up and did his daily morning routines and got dressed. He walked up the stairs and straight to the kitchen to get something to eat. "Morning, Naruto-kun." Haku happily greeted the blonde. "Morning, love." He strode over to her and hugged her petite frame. "Sorry that I wasn't with you when you woke up. It's fine, but when do I have start sleeping in a coffin too? When you have some soil from your birthplace." "Oh," Haku looked down. "Don't worry, I'm with you this time. What about the civil war in Kiri? Since I've awakened and you've turned, why don't we help finish it?" Naruto pulled away to look into her eyes. "But you only had these powers for just over 4 weeks," Haku cried out. "That is true, my dear. But I need to release my full power before I can seal them, so I know how strong the seals will have to be. You getting used to your new powers and adding more souls for ourselves." She stayed quiet for a moment, searching his eyes for something, but sighed. "All right, but we must inform Hokage-sama about this." "Of course. Also, this is a good opportunity to test yourself to the fullest as well," he commented. "Yes. That's also true." After the two vampires had their breakfast, they easily made their way to the Hokage Tower to speak with the old fire shadow. The shadows morphed into their figures in front of the elderly man and he paused his work to greet them. "Hello Naruto-kun, Haku." "Greetings Gigi. And what do I owe the pleasure of seeing you two today?" "We would like to go to Kiri to help the rebellion." Hiruzen sputtered for a moment and looked at the blonde with a doubtful expression. "You can't be serious," but Naruto gave him a deadpanned look. "You are serious," he sighed and asked, "Care to explain the sudden decision?" "Yes. As I told Haku-chan earlier, I need to measure how much power I have, as I personally haven't gone all out, so I can place restrictions onto myself. Also, could you activate the privacy seals?" "Of course." The room glowed for a brief moment and a stern expression replaced the aloof look Naruto had a second ago. "Gigi. You are one of the very few people I trust in this village and it's time to explain to you what I have become." The blonde paused for a moment. "I'm no longer human. I've become a creature of the night, one that consumes blood of others to sustain my life. You can guess when the change had happened. Anyways, I had inherited these abilities from my father's side." "Then why didn't your father have these abilities?" Sarutobi asked. "It's most likely it had skipped him and went on to me. That and the fact Kyuubi must have had a hand in activating my vampiric side for it as well." Naruto lazily waved his hand. "Moving on, but still on the subject of Kyuubi. He's no longer sealed within me and before you ask questions. He has become what you call a summon to me now and my possible family in the future." Hiruzen sighed and rubbed his temples and gazed at the Uzumaki Namikaze heir with a tired look in his eyes. "You really are full of surprises, aren't you?" He wearily smiled at the young male. "Then I wouldn't be me, now would I?" Naruto smiled. "Yes, that is indeed true. Is there anything else?" "In matter of fact, yes. Haku here is now officially a part of my clan and my wife. I had asked her if she would become my first spouse and turn into what I've become, roughly a week ago, and she came to her decision last night. Now we need to go to her homeland to collect some soil for her, so she doesn't weaken over time." Naruto paused for a moment. "The reason is that for any vampire from my line has to sleep in a coffin with the base filled with the dirt of their birthplace, so the said vampire would not lose their powers over time, as they haven't consumed a certain amount of human blood. Which is roughly 100 different people that you have to kill, and since I'm already past halfway, why not finish it? And that Haku needs it more than I do, since she's not native to our lands." You do prove a point, but why the civil war in Kiri? "It's the only place we can have free reign to fight to test our abilities and get away with it. Also, war sounds like fun," Naruto maniacally laughed in glee. Then caused the other two occupiers a cold shiver down their spines. The undead king managed to calm himself down to a large fanged grin. "Well?" Another sigh from the old man and he looked Naruto in the eyes. "Very well. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, Haku Uzumaki Namikaze. You are being given a S-ranked mission to aid the rebellion in their civil war in Kirigakure. Do you accept?" "Hi. Hokage-sama." The two teens straightened up. "You two will leave in 2 hours." "Hi. Then I'll inform your team that you'll be away for the next few weeks." The robed man wrote Don't a note to remind him. Thank you, Gigi. Hiruzen pulled out a blank scroll and began to scribble down the necessary information they needed and finished it off with the official stamp of the third Hokage. He rolled it up and tossed into the blonde. I'll also send the fastest bird to the rebellion, to inform them that you are coming to their aid. Good luck. Thanks, I'll see you when we come back, he grinned. Goodbye, Hokage-sama. Haku bowed and the two-teen left. Konoha's main gate, all ready, Haku-chan? Yeah. We'll be alright. If anything bad happens, I'll be there to protect you, my ice queen. He kissed the anxious partner. Thank you. No problem. Let's go. With that, the two of them dashed through the gate and leapt into the trees surrounding Konohagakure. Hoping to get to their destination in under a week, so Naruto could observe his future prey. Making the vampire grin excitedly for the bloodshed that's about to come. With Team 7. Where's that baka? A certain pink-haired teen screeched in frustration. HN. Was the only reply she got, as the Uchiha was annoyed that he was with one of his fangirls. Poof. Yo. You're late, Sakura yelled at her sensei. Ma. I thought there was a wasp in my room, so I hid under my bed for hours, before I realized it was just the neighbors vacuuming. He gave them an eye smile. Liar. The same girl screamed once more. The silver-haired man inwardly sighed to himself and asked where their last team member was. To only received a shrug of shoulders and I don't know. He sighed out loud this time and spoke. Let's go find him. With that being said, they went on for 3 hours looking for him and had no such luck, so they headed to the Hokage Tower to ask their leader if he knew where Naruto could possibly be. Team 7. I must inform you that Naruto is currently out of the village and won't be returning in a few weeks, so there's no need to wait for him for team training. The old man smiled at the tired, frustrated group. So we won't be able to take missions? Kakashi asked. No, you'll be able to continue your missions, just D-ranked, which are within Konoha. So don't worry about that. That's good to hear, Hokage-sama. Here's your mission for today. Hiruzen handed the Junin a scroll. Thank you, Hokage-sama, we'll be off now. The small team left the office and Sakura growled to herself that Naruto was skipping out on their useless tasks. But on the other hand, she was ecstatic that she would be alone with her Sasuke-kun. With Naruto and Haku, the sun was setting and the two vampires decided to have a short break, as they were going to travel easier during the night, as they were creatures of darkness. Having a drink of blood and rest under the shadows of the trees, Naruto and Haku got back up to continue on their way to Kiri. 11:47 p.m. Naruto-kun. I'm getting tired, the brunette panted, tiredly. Alright, my dear. We'll stop for the rest of the night. Naruto came to a stop. Thank you. She smiled at him. The two of them jumped to the ground and set a tent for them to rest in. Haku slipped into the dark-colored tent and spoke up. Are you coming in? No, my dear. I'll be staying up for a while longer, he replied. Okay. Good night, Naruto-kun. Good night, my love. A small smile graced his usually harsh features. After a few moments of shuffling, there was silence and Naruto let out a quiet sigh to himself. He gazed up to the stars above and hoped things would go well for them and wondered if there was a chance of meeting his missing clan members that were scattered. Will I ever find you? I was so tempted to end it here. Next day, Haku-chan. It's time to get up. The blonde lightly nudged her. She mumbled. Come on now. We need to get moving. He spoke once more. Okay. A chuckle was heard and the pair had something to eat, drink and packed up their things, removed any traces of them being there and continued on their way to Kirigakure. Hours went by, as the two vampires traveled silently through the trees and had to abruptly stop, as they had sensed a few humans nearby. They looked at each other, nodded and stayed in the tree that they had stopped on. Ha ha ha. This is the best raid we've had in a long time, a fat bandit boasted with a laugh. Yeah. And look at the women we've got too. Quite the lookers. Another eyed the frightened women. Quiet. You might attract unwanted attention to us, their apparent leader hissed at them. Don't be like that, boss. There's no one around for miles. Yeah, no need to worry. Their boss sighed in irritation and walked away from his fellow bandits. Naruto looked over to Haku to see what her reaction to all this, and her eyes were glowing red from anger. A smirk spread across his features, wondering how she would deal with these mongrels. Haku's paw asterisk. As we watched these bandits settle down for the day, I felt something that I haven't felt in a long time. No, it's more like the first time I felt like this. Anger, hatred, disgust, and excitement. I could feel my fangs lengthening and glanced over to Naruto. He nodded at me and telepathically spoke. Go on. I know you want to shred these meatbags apart. I nod my head and let myself sink into the shadows, but I had a slither of fear lurking at the back of my head. You'll be fine. You're a strong woman. Naruto spoke in my mind again, soothing that fear away. Thank you, Naruto-kun. I then focused back on these pathetic men. Arg. Huh. One of the men jumped up. Gurgle, I had slit another man's throat open and I wasn't going to stop any time soon. One after another, they fell down as flies. I savored the feeling of their blood on my hands and their bodies lying there, completely lifeless. What the FCK? A bald man yelled, swinging his sword wildly. In his crazed state, he was about to cut down one of the tied-up women. I was going to stop him, but he froze and his upper half slid off, falling to the ground, dead. I looked at who did it and it was Naruto, glaring at the now dead man. I despised men who harm women. Purposely or unintentionally, he growled, making my heart flutter. I then focused back onto the last remaining men. 7 more to put down permanently. Leaving Naruto where he was, I continued my onslaught on these low lives. But when I had finished them off, their leader wasn't anyway to be seen. He's 15 meters to your right. Naruto spoke up. How can you tell? I asked. Imagine having a third eye in the middle of your forehead. Use it. Third paw of Haku's eyes pulsed red and her vision sped through the trees and easily found the running man. She slipped into the shadows and easily cut him down as well, not feeling an ounce of regret for killing these pitiful creatures. Returning into her shadows, she reformed by her lover, as he was reassuring the women they saved, that he was helping them return home. Many were crying tears of joy at this and thanked the two vampires many times. Haku, I think we should escort these lovely ladies back to their village. Yes. I think it's more safe for them, if we took them back to their homes, the brunette agreed. She'd looked absolutely stunning in her bloodlust, a certain blonde teen thought. So, the group, consisting of 11 women and 2 vampires, picked up the things that were stolen and began their travel to the small village that these women were taken from. Some having idle chatter, as others were still getting over the shock of their unpleasant experience. While the Konoha pair kept their senses sharp for any unwanted guests. -3 days later, it had taken the traveling group 3 days for them to return to the village that these ladies were kidnapped from. The friends and family were grateful for the 2 passing nins for helping their loved ones, even though it wasn't really their business. So most of the villagers asked for them to stay for the night, as a thanks and some gifts for them. But they politely declined and had to keep moving, as they were on a mission. The leader of the small village thanked them once more, before the pair continued their way to Kiri. When they were far away from the small establishment, Naruto pulled Haku in a searing hot kiss, which at first had surprised her, but she returned it with the same amount of vigor. When they pulled apart, the brunette spoke. What was that for? For a wonderful display of bloodshed, my dear, he smirked in response. She giggled for a moment and gave the blonde vampire a sly smirk. Anytime, my king. Haku walked away from his strong arms, with a slight sway in her hips, making Naruto's dead heart flutter for a moment. Shaking out of his thoughts, we easily caught up with the Hyden user and scooped her up, earning a squeal of delight, and both of them happily laughed, enjoying their happy moment before they were going into a bloody fight. -4 days later. We should be close to Kiri now, but we have to be careful of the loyalists. Haku explained, as she felt tense. I'll be fine, love. Gently taking a hold of Haku's smaller hand and gave it a light squeeze. Vaguely seeing her body relax through the light mist that was currently surrounding them, Naruto knew that she was feeling uneasy, as her last memory of this place was on a good one, as they had shared their memories, through their blood. But were too caught up in the moment of love to even think about it. That, or she hasn't seen his memories yet. Who's there? Show yourselves. Are you with the rebellion? Naruto countered back with another question. And what if we are? The same voice replied. Because Konoha sent us to as them. A figure approached them cautiously. 2 kids? They must be joking. 2 monsters with a new bloodline that could easily destroy a nation. The blonde shot back, feeling irritated now. HMPH. Fine then. Follow me. He gestured to the younger shinobi to follow them. Completely aware that there were more of them, watching from a distance. In silence, the 2 creatures of the night followed the man to the secret base camp of the rebellions. When they had entered the camp, all eyes were watching the pair, wary of their presence and ready to fight at a moment's notice. Main tent, Mei-sama. The reinforcements are here. Come in. A melodic voice called out. So the 3 of them entered the large tent and were greeted by a redhead, a man with an eye patch over his right eye, an older teen and some other nins that were there. However, the first 3 people stood out from the rest of them. The woman straightened up, taking in the sight of only 2 people and ended frowning. That's all? Yes. That's all. Naruto's eyebrows furrowed. My name's Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze and this is my wife, Haku Uzumaki Namikaze. Pleasure to meet you. Mei Terumi. Are you by chance related to the Yellow Flash? Minato Namikaze, my father, while my mother was Kushina Uzumaki. The Red Death. A curt nod was given. And what rank are you? Currently Genin, but my bloodline recently activated, so I don't know what I am now. He nonchalantly shrugged. Another frown. And you? I've never been a registered shinobi, as of lately, I've been stated as a Genin also. Before, I was an apprentice of Zabuza Momochi. Demon of the Mist? One of the 7 swordsmen of the mist? Yes. The brunette unsealed the kabikirabocho from her left wrist and lifting it with ease. The apparent leader of the rebellions sat down, crossing one leg over the other. Her scrutinizing stare bored into them, but had no effect. As it didn't really bother them, because they were monsters with no major feelings of fear, but losing the other and their precious friends. Tell me, why did Konoha only send 2 kids to war? We are not kids. The 2 of us are monsters. Naruto gave her a fanged grin. Mei sighed in irritation, rubbing her temples and narrowed her eyes onto them. Send us out and we'll show you. I am not sending to greenhorns out to their deaths, she yelled. TCH. If you don't want us to help you, then say so, Naruto growled. Naruto-kun. Haku scowled him. What? His eyes glowed red, startling the brunette. Seeing her frightened face, he stopped and took in a deep breath. Sorry Haku-chan. It's fine. She gave him a small smile. Taking another deep breath, he spoke again, but more calmly. If you do not wish for our help, we will leave immediately. Yes, leave. Forget you were even here. Mei spoke with a grave tone. Goodbye. With no bow from the blonde, he left the tent. Haku sent her an apologetic look, also giving the woman a small goodbye, and she too left the tent to catch up with her husband. Was that a wise choice, Mei-sama? The man with the eye patch asked. With a sigh, she answered. Yes. I believe so. They're too young to have to fight in our war. What was that old man thinking? B. But they looked willing to fight F for us. Chojuro timidly spoke up. And why do you think that? The redhead asked. I could see it in his eyes. A shiver went down his spine. He's truly isn't human, to have such empty eyes. They were silent for a moment, absorbing what their friend had just said to them. Him saying that was a little concerning, as it was the first time to claim such a thing. But their train to thought were halted by a man rushing in, yelling at them. Mei-sama. Our scouts have spotted some loyalists, 4 miles from here. I think they're going to run into the kids from before. What? Mei stood up. How many are there? About 30 of them, ma'am. Shit. She muttered. Get me 30 shinobi together now. We're going after them. We can't let those 2 die. With Naruto and Haku. Are you feeling okay, Naruto-kun? The concerned brunette asked, as they were running back home. Honestly, I want to tear something apart, he responded. We'll find a bandit camp and you can destroy it, before we get home. How does that sound? Perfect. Thank my ice queen. Anything for you, love. After running in silence for only a few minutes, Naruto halted, a savage grin spreading across his face. It seems like the slaughtering will start earlier than expected. as 10 jumped out of the mist, surrounding the two vampires. "Hey! Look what we've found, 2 little kids on their own. Looks like they're from Konoha. What are you doing here?" Naruto didn't answer them, as he was looking down, his hair covering his face. Haku looked over to the blonde and whispered, "What are we going to do now?" "You take the 10 here, I'll take the other 20. His voice spoke in her mind. He then melted into the shadows, leaving the teen girl on her own. She pulled out her usual senbons and threw them with terrifying precision, only killing one of them, as they weren't fast enough to take on the hail of needles. This pissed off the other nins there, and 3 of them rushed at her, with kunai in hand. She rolled her eyes and then conjured up an ice mirror, disappearing into it. "She has a bloodline. Kill her," one of the remaining women yelled. "Arg gurgle." 8 left. Hidden from their view, Haku closely watched the men, as they were now back to back with each other. They were waiting for her next attack. Bang, bang, bang was heard in the distance, followed by loud screams. Swiftly, she sliced one of the women's throat open and disappeared into the shadows once more, bringing the group's attention back. The brunette, carefully looking through the mist, waiting for any movement. FCK. 5 left. As 3 of the loyalists were impaled by a tree of ice from the center of their circle. As the other 5 had jumped away from their impending doom by the hand of the undead king's first wife. Haku's eyes glowed red as hunger struck her and she ran at one of them. "There she is. Kill the demon." But a moment later, the same man was gurgling, as the female vampire had bitten into his neck. Horror had entered the eyes for the 4 that watched, even though they were fully fledged Junins. Just watching a teen drink the blood of a fully grown man was disturbing. Her eyes glowed redder. It wasn't enough. After draining the man dry, she hungrily looked at the frightened people in front of her. A shadow slithered up one of their legs, them noticing it crawling up their body. It had stabbed them through the neck. The 3 remaining men looked in terror as it slowly slid back to Haku's feet, with the blood following close behind it. She absorbed the red liquid, relishing the feeling of adding another soul to her collection. With Naruto had disappeared into the shadows, and one by one, he viciously killed the ones that were hiding within the mist. One was decapitated, another was impaled, the 9th one was bisected in half, as the 14th one had their throat ripped open. Bang, bang, bang. Naruto had pulled out his gun from within his coat. He had just killed his 19th victim, without any mercy. His blood-red eyes glowed red and he consumed the blood of his unfortunate victims. His shadows dragged the bodies away, as he continued his hunt for the last one. Man's Pav, FCK. 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 I thought to myself, he know it was going to kill me, I don't want to die. I pushed more chakra into my legs, as I had to get back to Kiri. I need to warn them of this. This monster was going to kill them all. My heart was racing. Everything was blurring past me. I couldn't be here anymore. Arg. Pain shot up from my leg and I fell onto the ground, hard. I grabbed my leg, inspecting the damage. A kunai had pierced through my Achilles tendon. FCK. I was going to die. I don't want to FC King die. *T. I can't run away now. I have a wife, 2 kids. I'm not going to see them again. Tears began to flow down my face. I'm scared. So FC King scared. Then I heard it. Laughter. It was dark, menacing, and it was going to FC King kill me. "Who's there?" A woman's voice called out. "I'm saved." Hope blossomed in my chest. Help. Over here. A man appeared from the distance and knelt beside me. Save me. It's going to kill me. I don't want to die. I was panicking so badly. Slow down. Who's going to kill you? A monster. It's a FC King monster. Naruto's Pav. I grinned to myself, as I hid in the shadows, watching my prey squirm in fear. This was fun, yet I wanted more. The fear, the fights and the blood, it wasn't enough. I let out a growl, but refocused on the man. I sent a shadow to slice his tendon and he fell with a heavy thud. Then I just watched, as I had sensed some of the rebellions heading our way. I observed their interaction and mentally laughed at how pathetic the man was acting, so irrationally. Time to die. I sent my shadow to crawl up his body. In a shower of blood, his back exploded, with dark tendrils waving about. The man that was holding loyalist, sat there in shock. The others looked horrified at the display of utter violence, staring at the strange thing protruding from the corpse. Hum. Wasn't that beautiful? I emerged from the thick mist. Snapping out of their shock, they had their kunais raised, ready to attack. Naruto mentally scoffed at weaker ones, as their hands were shaking. But amusement was dancing in his red eyes, wondering what they were going to do. You did this? Ao asked, his visible eye widening. And if I did? The blonde spoke mockingly. Why, you freak, one of the men in the group yelled. So you're sympathizing with your enemy. Tisk. Where's the other one? The girl. A smirk made its way onto his face. This way. The group followed the vampire, back to where his wife was and where the rest of the attackers were dragged to. At the sight of the bodies, some of the shinobi threw up, from seeing such a demented scene before them. Naruto-kun. Haku ran up to him and gave him a hug. You did all this? Mei asked. No, I did that. He pointed to the pile of bodies, body parts and gore. Haku-chan did the iceworks. Help. A groan came from the pile of flesh and bones. They looked over to see a man, crawling towards the group, with an arm raised. But some paled at the sight, as it was only his upper half of his body. Blood trailed behind the dying man and Naruto frowned. He walked up to the half-corpse and placed his boot on his head. Pinning it to the ground, the man whimpered. Please. Help. Crunch. Many flinched at the brutality, but couldn't look away as the blood from the half-body slithered its way to Naruto's feet, disappearing into his shadow, as if the darkness of it was consuming the red liquid. Just what are you? A low whisper. Slowly, the king turned, his eyes glowing a bright red, and spoke in a deep tone. I am a creature of the night. A being that should not exist. For I am a monster. He threw his arms into the air. A menacing aura flooded the area, bringing some hardened ninjas to their knees. Naruto's fangs eerily gleamed, as the world around them seemed to darken. Hunger was lurking in his eyes. A hunger for a good fight. To find a worthy opponent to clash with. But there was also something else. Something that shouldn't be in the eyes of a 13-year-old. Madness. Time skip. After cleaning up the mess that Naruto and, not really, Haku had made, Mei requested that the two would return to help with the war. Especially after what she saw the carnage the pair of teens had done to 30 fully trained Junins. However, Naruto told her there was a price to pay. And he has yet to tell her what it is. Anyways, the rebellion leader had set them in a small area and told them to wait for further instructions, as the rebellion was thinking of a strategy to fight against the 4th Mizukage. However, Mei's thoughts were elsewhere, as she couldn't stop thinking about the mystery Konoha had sent to their aid, pondering how they had such a person within their walls. A being that could terrorize the entire elemental nations to their knees. Yet, this boy is living in the most peaceful village that their world has to offer. What was he up to? Somewhere else, he has returned. Rustling filled the room up, murmurs echoed around. Finally, our king. We shall go. He will need a kingdom. The others in the room agreed. Yes. But where? His mother was an Uzumaki. A twin spoke up. So his kingdom will be in Uzushio. The other twin finished. We shall rebuild it to its former glory, for our king. He's currently fighting in the civil war of Kirigakure. We'll send 4 of us to aid him. The main person looked over to a specific group and they nodded in return, then disappearing into the dark doorway. With Naruto and Haku for some reason, Naruto grinned with a proud gleam in his eyes, as if something wonderful was going to happen in the near future. Haku just simply raised an eyebrow and asked him. He told her what he was feeling and she too felt it. Although they had to stop their conversation, as Haku was still getting used to her new nightly routine and she went to sleep, feeling more at ease. Because she was now sleeping on the soil of her birthplace. Naruto lovingly gazed at his wife and softly sighed to himself. Leaving the tent, he looked over the rebellion's camp. It seems I won't be moon-gazing tonight. He mumbled to himself as he looked up to the sky, but the constant mist was in the way. You can come out now. Naruto turned his head towards the person that was spying on him. Interesting. How could you tell I was here? I'm always aware of my surroundings, he cryptically responded. Being difficult, are we? They coyly spoke. No, I'm being cautious. So, tell me. Why are you really here? The person revealed themselves to be a certain red-haired woman. His sharp gaze eyed the woman and began to walk away. Not here. So the busty female followed the teen to a more private area of the camp. The blonde stopped and looked into the distance. May stood there, taking in all the details that she could make out in the darkness of the night. "Why are you here?" she asked again. "I'm here for the war," was the curt answer. "What?" She was genuinely confused. "For the battle, the violence, the constant death, and of course, for me to watch it all." He grinned to himself, as he was still facing away from her. How can you be so heartless? Men and women are dying, sacrificing themselves for those who have been unjustly killed for just having bloodlines. You misunderstand, woman, or have you forgotten? I am neither a human, nor an animal, for I am a vampire. He snapped around, eyes glowing, his fangs once again gleaming. The dreadful aura from before was even worse. It was suffocating. His footsteps grew closer and closer to her. Fear was creeping into her chest. Slitted eyes bored themselves into her, as if he was looking directly into her soul. However, there was something else. But before she could identify it, he vanished into the darkness, leaving her on her knees, sweat dripping down her forehead. Her petite hands trembled and her breathing was ragged. For the first time in her life, she was terrified for her life. -4 days later. May-sama. Yagura and his army are planning to attack. A woman had rushed into the main tent. "Where? How many?" "They heading straight for us. There's about 750 nins and Yagura is with them." Making this up? Panic was evident in her voice and expression. "Shit." May mumbled to herself, biting her thumb. As the rebellion only had 200 at most, but about 120 of them were still healing from the last attempt that they had made. Time was running out and she needed to find a way to finish this once and for all. But how? "It seems like you have a problem." Naruto phased through the tent side, a fanged smirk directed at the rebellion leader. Haku had also entered, through the entrance, and stood by her lover's side. Both of them had a gleam in their eyes, bloodlust, slowly oozing out of them. They were twitching for a bloodbath, yet they were waiting for her permission to unleash a pair of hellish beings onto the oncoming army. The end. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next part.